This episode of Tech News Weekly is brought to you by Braintree. If you're working on a mobile app and searching for a simple payment solution, check out Braintree. With one simple integration, you can offer your customers every way to pay, period. To learn more, and for your first $50,000 in transactions fee-free, go to BraintreePayments.com/TNW.
Starting Tech News Weekly in 3, 2, 1.
Hey everybody, welcome to Tech News Weekly. I'm Andrew Zarin. Of course, I'm joined by the one, the only, John Bub. How you doing, John?
Hey Andrew, what's up?
What's going on? How are you?
You will thank God it's finally Friday.
Yeah. Well, today, you know what? I'm not looking. Well, I kind of am looking forward to tonight. I'm going to a wrestling show in Manhattan.
Ew, wrestling.
You know who's coming? Jury's coming.
Oh boy.
Yeah, it's gonna
be two wild and crazy guys.
That's exactly what's gonna happen. He's coming. Rich, obviously from Matt Men, is coming, and a few other friends are coming. So it should be a lot of fun. It's at Terminal 5, which is a venue here in New York, and it's probably one of the only venues that the train does not. Yeah, Terminal 5. Yeah, JetBlue. At JFK, it's Terminal 5. You just go to the JetBlue terminal, and there you go. You just hang out there and you watch people
how they're
wrestle.
doing wrestling shows now?
Well, that's. Have you ever seen the baggage claim and what that's like? That's a wrestling show on its own. Go to LaGuardia, please. If you want to see a disaster, go to LaGuardia and watch people pick up their bags, because that is a show on its own. So yeah, we're gonna go tonight, and I made the mistake and bought general admission tickets, and yeah, I made a huge mistake. Because when I ordered the tickets, it actually said like Section D, but I didn't know Section D was general admission.
Oh.
It says Section D seat and row. So I was like, oh, okay, this is what it is. And then I find out Section D is a general admission.
Well, that's misleading.
It's very misleading. So it's
you
a little.
Sue.
Oh, yes, I should actually. You misled me. Now I will sue you for millions of dollars.
Yep.
We have a lot to talk about. We didn't do a show last week, so we're going to cover some of that. John and I are going to discuss stuff that happened at WWDC. We're going to talk a little bit about E3 and everything else that's happening in tech this week. But before we do that, I want to talk about our sponsor, a good sponsor, a great sponsor, and a great company, a PayPal company, and that's Braintree. If you're a developer, if you're a company that's looking to develop an app and accept mobile payments, now this is a big deal. If you have a business and you're selling something, if you have a restaurant and you want to process payments, if you're shipping across the country, you want your product to work. You want your app to work. You want your service to work. And why not rely on a company that's backed by PayPal? It's a PayPal company, and it's called Braintree. BraintreePayments.com/TNW. Here's a great thing. I'm going to explain to you what it is, but before I do that, here's a great deal. $50,000 in transaction fees are totally free. Your first $50,000 in transaction fees are totally free. If you have a developer, tell them to check this out. Living Social, Hotel Tonight, Airbnb, Uber are some of the companies that are using Braintree to accept mobile payments. Why are they doing that? Well, it accepts PayPal, Apple Pay, Bitcoin, almost every single credit card on the face of the planet, every single type of currency. It's any kind of mobile payment you could do, Braintree accepts. Tiny piece of code, they pop it in, and you are ready to go. To learn more about Braintree and get your first $50,000 in transactions fee-free, go to BraintreePayments.com/TNW. That's BraintreePayments.com/TNW. I just told one of my buddies he's a developer, and he loves this company. He goes, actually, you know what? It is very easy. If you ever have a problem, you call them up. They give phenomenal tech support. They're able to help you out and guide you along the way. BraintreePayments.com/TNW. Get your first 50,000 transactions fee-free. I want to thank Braintree for supporting Tech News Weekly and, of course, supporting the GFK Network, John. The good people.
I'm all for anything that's easy.
I know, and you know what? They are super easy, and that's a huge selling point here. A huge selling point. If you could just implement that and push it right in, and you go, here you go, you're done. You're done. You're finished. It's over. John, let's talk about WWDC a little bit. Let's wrap this up. Apple Watch 2, Apple Watch OS 2 announcements.
Yeah, the Watch OS.
The Watch OS.
Watch OS 2. It's the second version because the first version, which is so crappy that they had to push out a new version of it.
But doesn't
now
that
it
sound like
supports native apps and custom?
Wait a minute, doesn't that sound like iOS? Isn't that like iOS in the iPhone? The first iPhone and iOS initially, it didn't really run apps.
I don't even remember that far back.
It didn't really run apps. You couldn't run apps.
Yeah, I mean, of course it was limited, but then it's also a different era. I mean, you're talking about a company now that is known for having everything work flawlessly, and I don't know that it did.
Yeah, so
it's weird in this day and age. I don't know that you could get away doing with as little as Apple did with the first generation iPhone.
I think if it's a new device like this, like the watch, I think if it's
you
like
get a little bit of a pass, but there were still a lot of things, especially the native applications that people really, really needed, and it should have been there from day one.
Yeah, so now you're going to be able to write
stuff.
native apps. Native apps are going to be supported. It's going to be limited initially with those native apps, but they're going to be supported. And that's a big selling point for this. We're seeing the rumors 9to5Mac and Qualcomm Mac are reporting that the next one is going to support FaceTime, so it'll probably have a camera on it. It's going to support all these different things on the phone.
Well, a lot of people were returning their watches because it was still so dependent on their iPhone.
Yeah, like they
were using their iPhone just as much as they were using their watch.
If I go jogging and I have this watch, I still need my phone.
Yes.
If I'm reliant on an app to do everything,
Yes.
Yeah, that kind of defeats the purpose, doesn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, I could easily just get some sort of holster for my watch, for my phone.
An iPod Nano.
Get an iPod Nano. You know what? Those things were great, right?
I still see them.
You know what's crazy? It's exactly what we thought of the Nano. Remember when the Nano came out?
I saw somebody with an iPod Shuffle the other day.
Jeez, those were awful.
I'm like, holy cow.
You know what that was? That's the equivalent of, when back in the day you used to go to the bank and you open up an account, you got a free toaster? Our generation, they gave away iPod Shuffles.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it was. So a lot of good announcements with that. OS X, OS X, it's named El Capitan. Gesturing, similar to iOS, is going to be supported.
By the way, did you know that El Capitan apparently is a rock formation in the Yosemite?
Is it real? Okay, so that's interesting.
And that's why it's named El Capitan.
So it's not really. Yeah, this is like 0.5.
At first, it sounded so weird that they just named it El Capitan out of the blue. I'm like, okay, why El Capitan? They never really explained it, but apparently it's a rock formation in the Yosemite Mountains.
So that makes a lot of sense, right? Because this is not a major release. This is a incremental, small release where it is improvements upon what Yosemite has.
Yes, both OS X and iOS 9 are largely focused on polishing and improvement and fixing bugs in the existing operating system.
Well, similar to what Google's doing also. I think everybody's, except for Windows. Windows is like, okay, well, we screwed it up, so now we need to do a major revamp.
They had to.
Yeah. So you know what was interesting about this? And one announcement that they made with OS X, which, they didn't really go into too much detail. iOS was the star of this, but they said that performance on the new version in El Capitan will be 40 to 50% faster than Yosemite. I don't know if that's a good thing as far as, well, wow, that's really fast, or a bad thing as far as Yosemite.
You don't know what
they're
using to measure that either.
Yeah, like they're going to be doing metal.
You gotta take everything they say with a grain of salt.
Yeah, like 50% faster
all those stats,
on what?
I mean, they're going to use the benchmark that gets them the best results.
Yeah, but I mean, you don't think that's a huge leap? I have not seen a company make an announcement like that. Like Microsoft, according to internals, I've never seen them actually say this out loud, but every OS that they put out is 10% more efficient and faster than the previous version. So Windows 7, Windows 8.
What is it like in the real world?
Yeah, but that's a huge leap. You don't think that's a humongous leap, meaning something went wrong with Yosemite? I mean, how would you take that? If you're used to a 10,
Until you know how they're doing the measurements, I don't know that you could say one way or the other.
I think the way that they're doing their measure. So trim will be enabled again, by the way.
I mean, it could be that, they started using a different measurement type
For
of
performance.
way to do the measurement than they did previously.
Yeah.
I mean, measurement tools change. There's a website called smallnetbuilder.com, and they've gone through several iterations of their router ranking charts and the way that they measure performance.
Yeah. The reason why I think they're saying 40% is because of metal. It's going to be using metal in the latest version, so graphics are going to be handled a little bit different, so it's going to obviously give you better performance. Or Yosemite just wasn't fast. The other thing is trim is enabled on third-party hard drives now.
So what you're saying is that Yosemite is the Windows Vista of OS X?
I don't think so. I think with Yosemite, they changed a lot of stuff, and maybe it just... I'll tell you something. You know what? I'll give you a great example. I have a 2011 MacBook Pro, right? When I had Maverick, I was able to record in Wirecast and have no problems in 720p. I started recording in Yosemite. What did you notice, John? What was happening with the audio and video?
Oh, it didn't work.
It didn't work. My
all.
CPU shot up. I was at maxing out my CPU. But I do not have that on Maverick. I have a machine with Maverick, and I run it on that. Perfectly fine. Perfectly fine. So I do think it's using video. It's utilizing the performance a little bit different. This is tremendous. This is a great improvement for it if it is 50% faster. So we'll see what happens.
You just won't know until you actually get real world testing.
Yeah. Yeah. New Spotlight improvement.
I never take those numbers seriously, ever.
I don't either. I mean, when they say, it's,
obviously, if you put a new
faster.
CPU chip in there that's a generation newer, of course you're going to see some sort of performance increase, but it's just a matter of how much in the real world.
Yeah. I'm curious to see what they meant by that. How they're estimating 50% faster. 50% faster in what? Just one of those blanketed terms that people kind of jumped over it.
Yeah.
I'm curious. You want to go to iOS 9 changes and updates?
Yeah, so like I said, iOS 9, there's not a whole lot that's changing in iOS 9. A lot of it is just going to be them focusing on actually improving iOS 8. But some of the things that they're doing, and one of the bigger things that they're doing, is making Siri more proactive. Siri will now predict your routines and offer you information based on your routine, such as traffic information or automatically adding events to your calendar that you get an email for, or possibly even starting a specific playlist when you plug your headphones in. This isn't a lot like Google Now, what Google Now is doing, so I guess they're catching up with Google Now and the way that Google Now works.
I absolutely love Google Now, actually. Google Now told me today, it knows that I'm going to that wrestling show, so Google Now, I looked at it, it goes, hey, you have to leave the house at this time to make it to your show. Doors open at 7:30, so you have to leave at 5 o'clock to get there on time. I think that's awesome. That's actually a very useful feature from Google Now.
Yeah.
It just knows my interests. I'm looking at my cards right now, so it tells me the weather.
So
obviously.
I guess a lot of this is due to the new, what they're calling a deep linking API, which basically allows Siri and Spotlight to access third-party applications, information from third-party applications.
So I'm looking here. What are they using to implement? Is this their own software? Is this a company that they purchased that they're going to implement now in Siri?
I'm assuming it's their own code.
Yeah.
Because I have not heard them say specifically what company would have done this for them.
Yeah, it's interesting about this.
It's going to be really cool to see how it shakes up. It's a good thing that they're finally getting a little bit more of a Google Now-ish type of feel to it. Some of the other things we saw in iOS 9 is that they're improving the Notes app, which is, in my opinion, long overdue that they actually update the Notes app to be more useful instead of just typing in data. I'm one of those guys that actually uses the Notes application for notes when I'm on the road if I need to jot something down.
So you know what was the most interesting part of the Notes app? The fact that you could have a cursor now.
Yeah.
I think that's a really bizarre and major change.
That was only on the iPad, though.
Yeah, only on the iPad. But that is interesting that you could have a cursor.
So they've also updated the Maps application, which is now going to provide you with transit directions. and also an around me style like local search. So if you want to search for restaurants nearby, it'll finally be able to do that. Which again is Apple, funny enough, playing catch up.
Yeah.
They're also introducing a new application called News, which is a Flipboard style news aggregation platform that pulls content from places like the New York Times and Condé Nast publications. I was not impressed in the least with this. And I'm a news junkie myself. I love news, but these Flipboard type applications really don't do anything for me. And I thought they spent a very long time on the demonstration for this.
Okay, so I didn't understand why they did that, right? Like, okay, well, what's the big deal? Like, why wouldn't they just use Flipboard? Well, I'll tell you why. I have a Samsung Galaxy S6 here, and if I scroll all the way to the side, it has Flipboard integrated in the Samsung, I guess, version of Android. And I have a news feed here of everything that's happening. And if I create an account or link my account, I could see everything that I'm, interested in. So I think what happened, they got pissed that Flipboard is linking up with, Samsung or HTC or whoever. And they say, you know what, let's just make our own.
It's just another stupid app that I'm going to have to somehow put in a folder and hide because I don't use it.
Yeah.
That's something. There's a lot of things that I think they could really change and improve in iOS in terms of a little bit more customization. And there's so many default applications that Apple puts on your phone that I just don't use. I don't use the stock app. I don't basically use any stock application.
You don't use
other
the
than
compass?
Notes and maybe calculator.
You're telling me you do not rely on the compass?
No.
Why is there a compass?
I don't know.
Someone tell me.
I mean, it's neat if you want to check it out for like the first time, but that's about it.
Why can't they integrate that in Maps?
I don't know.
So what else was announced?
The public beta for iOS 9 is launching in July. They renamed Passbook to Wallet, and there's also a new low power mode in iOS 9, which will allow your device to save battery, making it last up to 3 hours longer, which I find hard to believe. So I'd like to know exactly
I'll tell you
what this low power mode actually turns off.
Okay, so I have low power mode on my phone here, which I could easily turn off. So what it does, it turns off, hold on, user power. So I'm going to turn it on now and see what it does. Okay, so ultra power mode, for example, I have ultra power mode. So my battery is at 85%. My estimated usage time remaining is 2 days if I turn this on. What it does for me is that it makes everything black and white. My phone goes black and white, and it limits the applications running in the background and the services. But you can still do text messaging. You can still do Facebook, Twitter, and Chrome. But it limits everything to the point that you get unbelievable time. So if I go in the city today and I'm going to be out and it's going to be a low signal area, I'm on the train, my phone is at 4%. I could get another 3 hours on 4% by putting in ultra power mode. There is a low power mode also that limits it even more, but you're not going to get that kind of performance out of it. So yeah, Samsung does this.
I don't know. I just question how much battery life you'll end up gaining. I mean, that's what it comes down to me is it really going to be up to 3 hours?
Yeah,
or is it
I could see
maybe 30, 45 minutes?
No, I could see 3 hours, to be honest, because I've put it in ultra power mode and I've gotten, on 4%, I've gotten like 3-4 hours. So maybe they're going to have multiple, they're going to have low power and then like ultra low power. So you can have two separate ones.
Okay.
I normally carry around a spare battery. Brian is bringing that up with me all the time. Not a battery, but one of those,
G-Packs.
G-Packs. And it's great. I mean, it does a job, and my phone is always charged. But if you forget it, or you don't have one, this is a great feature for the last couple minutes of your phone's life. You just extend it tremendously.
Yeah, absolutely. I
Yeah,
love those things.
but I'll tell you, John, it works. I don't, on my Samsung, it works. I don't know how well it's going to work on iOS, but it works really well on my Samsung. It's come in handy multiple times.
So you want to talk about this Apple Music stuff that they finally announced? We knew that this was coming for a long time, and they finally announced it at WWDC.
Yes, there was a lot of confusion also about it.
Yeah, so I guess some of the features are that it's going to be unlimited streaming music for $9.99 a month or $14.99 per month for a family of up to 6 people if you want to share it, which is really cool. So you only have to have one subscription for your entire family. They're also going to have live 24/7 radio called Beats One with live DJs in LA, New York, and London.
Oh boy.
And then they're going to have also in this application what's called Connect, which is basically the ping-like service that they had before for artists to share videos, blogs, pictures, etc. They're also going to have a For You section that selects tracks based on your input. And this is one of the bigger things, is that they're actually going to have an application for Android. They are having an Apple Music app for Android that launches on June 30th.
So they said during the announcement that iTunes is coming to Android. Those were the words that they used during the announcement. And they said iTunes for Android will be available. Well, that is not the case. Android, it is not iTunes for Android. It's Apple Music for Android.
It's just that standalone part of iTunes.
Yes, it's that standalone part of iTunes. So it's not.
But the fact that they're still putting this application out for Android, I think, is huge. Never mind the fact that it isn't necessarily iTunes, but it's still Apple Music for Android devices.
Yeah, so I wonder.
Huge news.
I wonder if you're going to be able to download music. If you could buy music for Android.
I don't see why not. I mean, that's a big part of iTunes, just being able to download music.
Yeah, so I don't think you're going to be able to download because you're going to need an Apple ID, right, to download music. If it's a subscription service, you don't need an Apple ID. You just need an email address, and you're fine.
Yeah, but I mean, they could still create one.
Yeah, I don't know. It's going to be.
You don't have to have an Apple device to necessarily have an Apple ID.
But you need an Apple ID.
Yes.
Yeah.
An Apple ID it's just merely an account with Apple. That's really all it is.
Yeah, I don't think that's what they're going for here. I think they're going for Apple
I think there's
Music.
still a lot of unknowns about this application.
Yeah.
It's going to be one of those things that come June 30th, we'll finally get to see really what it's all about. I want to get your thoughts on this Beats One service.
I think it's
this
stupid.
live 24/7.
I think it's done.
Radio station.
It's not going to work well. They're going to can it within 14 months.
I was not very impressed with it. That Zane Lowe guy. I don't know. I'm a radio guy, but
they're trying way too hard to do like BBC, like what the BBC does.
Yes.
Like BBC One, BBC Two, like with their music. That's exactly what they're going for, and that's not going to work well in America, unfortunately.
I thought the demonstration and the announcement of Apple Music was just a little strange, especially with Jimmy Iovine in the very beginning.
Yeah.
It felt awkward to me.
Jimmy Iovine is the exact opposite of what an Apple announcement is. He's just so music. He's like the music industry guy.
Yeah.
So it was interesting to see him there. He's got the
network connections and everything, but
he's a guy that came up with Beats, the Beats service. So this is what's keeping a name going. I don't know. I'm all for personalities and DJs, and the fact that we live in a time where DJs no longer exist and it's about a playlist, it takes away from a radio station. So if they're able to kind of cultivate this different kind of way of delivering music, and they're able to give these DJs jobs, and maybe they'll create a talk station, a comedy station. We don't know what this will grow into. Right now, you're looking at one station with, multiple DJs.
You know what? They were smart. You know what they would do is they would update their podcast application and start curating, podcast.
Yeah, creating their own
in a
playlist.
meaningful way, like you said, in different genres, like Sirius XM Radio, where you have comedy, you have rock, you have these niches that they're going to curate.
Yeah.
So let's say you wanted to listen to
Well, I'll be honest. I think that's what they're going to go for. I honestly think that that's what they're going to slowly lead into. With the fact that they're starting Beats 1, I think they'll have Beats 2, and then they'll have a rock version. They'll have what do they call the electronic music now? EPMD. What is it called? EPM.
EPM. I don't know what you're talking about.
DDT. Whatever the like house
electronic
music,
dance music.
Yeah, electronic EDM.
EDM.
Yeah, there you go.
Jeez.
I don't know. It was trance and techno
You're
when
so
I was
old.
It was trance and techno in my time, and house. What's wrong with that? Just house music. All you hear is. I think they're gonna. I think they're gonna eventually go to that.
You're so the uncool dad.
Look at that! I could be a DJ for them. I'm just gonna shave the sides of my head even more than they normally shave, like Skrillex. No, I think this is a great idea if done well.
It doesn't do anything for me.
I think if it's done
well, it
well,
really does. I'm like, really.
Will. That one station will not work. That's like Hits 1 on Sirius, right? Like, do I listen to Hits 1? No, I don't. But I do listen to Lithium. I listen to the classic rock station. I listen to Howard on there. I listen to Opie and Anthony. So I think this may be the beginning. That this is a test model for them to see how it does, and then they'll slowly grow it. Hopefully, it does not become a playlist.
They spent so much time on it.
Yeah, they did, and I think there's a grander vision than just one station here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's see what happens. All right, go into another one.
So one of the things I'm excited about is that Twitter is finally removing the 140 character limit from direct messages. Starting in July, they're actually going to remove that limit so that you can have up to 10,000 characters in a direct message. This is freaking fantastic because even in direct message, I think 140 characters is just crap.
Well, you know what? Is that a positive or negative? Because people are losing their minds due to spammers, right? They're saying like, "Oh, it's the spammers are now going to kill you."
You have to actually follow each other in order to send a direct message.
Yeah.
So it's not like you're going to necessarily follow somebody that you don't want to follow and not want to get a direct message from. Because there's been plenty of times that I've wanted to send direct messages, but it's taken me 2 or 3 direct messages to communicate what I needed to communicate.
Yeah.
Prime example is that a lot of times, instead of calling Comcast for help, I will just use Twitter. And a lot of their communication they do through direct messaging.
Well, I think
if I'm trying to explain something or give them information,
it's hard.
It takes me several direct messages.
So what if they open it up for each person? Like slowly.
They already did that with celebrities, I thought, where they allowed certain VIPs on Twitter to send direct messages without having to follow people.
Yeah.
So they've already experimented with this. So I'm glad to see 140 character was just too little to do certain things with. I mean, even if they expanded it to double to 280 characters, I still think that would be fine for normal Twitter messages.
280 for Twitter. You know what though? Do you think they're going to expand it? That's the whole thing. If they went like 10 more characters, it'd be different.
Why can't they ignore characters from usernames?
Yeah, why? Yeah, the characters should be ignored.
They still count the Twitter username as characters when you make a tweet.
Because then what if you do like a spam for like all these different...
If you have a really long Twitter username that's, 20 characters long, well, now you only have 120 characters.
I don't know. I don't know what the answer is to this because I understand why it's 140 characters. I don't know if they should expand it because then Twitter will become like a Google Plus or a Facebook. I like the fact that I could go and just read a quick thing. Like links, if you have a link should not count as a character. If they eliminated alone.
You're saying that you think even 280 characters would be too many?
Yeah, I think 280 would be too much. Yeah. I think maybe like 180 would be good. If they added 40 more characters, that would be fine.
At the very least, they can at least ignore Twitter usernames.
Yeah. I don't know. Well, but here's a problem with that. What if I'm a spammer and I'm just doing like hundreds of usernames? And I'm just constantly doing usernames over and over again.
They can figure something out with that.
Yeah.
I mean, there's always going to be a problem with spammers. Always. No matter what you do. Even now, with this 140 character limit, they still have issues with spammers. They still have issues with people getting hacked on Twitter and sending spam messages, even from legitimate accounts.
Yeah.
So you're always going to have that problem no matter what. It doesn't matter what you do.
Yeah. I don't know what the answer is with that, to be honest.
So you want to talk about a couple things from the big week, this E3?
Yeah,
whatever it was.
Let's talk about it.
Because I'm not a gaming person.
Yeah.
So.
I want to hear you do the gaming news.
I am so not the person to talk about news from E3 because I don't do any gaming whatsoever.
Well, I'm not a gamer either, but Mike,
You're more into it than I am.
I guess so. The Xbox
you've had way many more consoles than me.
The Xbox One story here was that they did not talk about anything when it came to media. They just strictly did gaming. They demoed on stage Mass Effect. They spoke about other, what they're going to do with the new interface and the feature of the Xbox platform. Sony apparently knocked it out of the park. And Nintendo did absolutely nothing this year again. It was the same exact story as last year. They had these little stupid demos. There's no they announced a couple things for the DS, but for the Nintendo Wii U, no Zelda, no Metroid, no new Mario. So except for that Mario Game Maker, which nobody cares about. I don't give two craps about that. So it was actually really disappointing this year. I was really disappointed.
From my point of view,
yeah,
it looked very similar to last year. Like they just announced a lot of the same stuff over again. I mean, I could be wrong. I know there's people that are more into this stuff and know more of the nuances of the gaming world, but
yeah,
I don't know. The fact that one of the biggest stories is the fact that the Xbox One is going to have Xbox 360 compatibility, I think says a lot.
It does say a lot.
That was one of the biggest stories is that you're now going to have backwards compatibility to play games.
Yes.
And one of the other biggest stories,
but it's not all games. It's not all games, though. Remember that.
Well, Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah, they're remaking it.
They're remaking that, and that was one of the other big stories. And that's simply a remake. It's not a new game. It's a remake.
But sometimes
it's the same game.
Sometimes it's worth it. Look at Street Fighter. Street Fighter's the same game every single time they release it, right? But it's technically been a remake forever.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of nostalgia there, though, as well. I think that's what drives remakes, to be honest.
Yeah.
A lot of people said that Call of Duty was getting kind of boring.
Yeah, but the Call of Duty thing is now a big deal because Microsoft lost the rights to the exclusivity when it came to, the first mapping and stuff like that.
I have no idea what any of that means.
So, Sony got the rights. So Sony's going to release like new maps and stuff. Sony gets it first. And people are saying that's a huge loss for the Xbox. The other announcement from this week with gaming is that Google is really starting to compete with Twitch because they're going to have YouTube gaming now.
Yeah, I saw that. That was an interesting story.
Yeah, so initially the rumors were that Google was going to be the one that bought Twitch. And that changed literally overnight, and we found out that Amazon was buying them.
Yes.
So Justin TV shut down due to this deal during this announcement, and Amazon came in and got Google. I don't know what Amazon is doing now. I mean, it's going to be a great way for them to sell their products and get into the ad business when it comes to streaming media like that, streaming content. But Google now is going to compete with them.
I think it's a brilliant move for YouTube because YouTube is one of those services that gamers actually really do use.
Yeah.
YouTube has a large gaming community on there with people that do vlogs and gameplay on YouTube. They upload their gameplay videos or tutorials and whatnot. So I think this is a very, very, very good move for them. They're going to have, I guess, I got to see my notes to see exactly what it is. But basically, they announced this at their YouTube Space LA. They're going to have more than 25,000 games that will have their own dedicated page, so that each page will feature videos and live streams related to a particular game title, which is really cool. So they're going to have this stuff very much organized so that if you're interested in Call of Duty, for example, they're going to have a page dedicated just to all the Call of Duty related gaming content on YouTube.
Yeah, and
they're also going to have publishers set up so that they have the publishers involved as well, so they can upload stuff. So I think the way that they're handling this is extremely smart.
Yeah, so Twitch also announced that they're going to create something called the Top Broadcaster Program, where if you're one of the top broadcasters, so if you have anything over 3,000 concurrent viewers, and they have a whole analytic here thing that they're going to be doing. Essentially, they're going to promote you. They're going to hook you up with swag and other kind of perks if you're a top broadcaster. So this is like their loyalty program. Stay with us. We'll promote you.
Sounds a little desperate to me.
Well, you got to be when Google comes knocking at your door and starts telling you that they're going to compete with you next door. You kind of have to get a little bit creative with the way that you're going to entice people to stay. I think they're freaking out.
Does Twitch still do automatic archiving?
I'm not too sure.
Because I know they got rid of it when Justin TV went away.
Yeah, it sucked. Let me tell you that.
Because that's one of the other features for YouTube gaming is that they're going to have a DVR feature so that you can actually record your gameplay and post it as a separate video as soon as you're done.
Yeah, you're going to get a lot more hits there.
But I think there's a lot of stuff going on with YouTube gaming that I think a lot of YouTube gamers will really love. They've already got a big audience of YouTube gamers. So I just see this as a brilliant move by YouTube.
Yeah. Hey, John, go into the BlackBerry story about an Android device.
So there's a rumor, and there's been a lot of rumors, that BlackBerry is planning on making an Android device. But Reuters made a report recently in the last couple of weeks saying that it could come out with a phone loaded with Android later this year. Apparently, sources told the news outlet that this doesn't mean the end of BlackBerry 10, but is a big move that signifies that the company's dwindling sales are forcing them to use Android. There's really not a whole lot of information here other than the fact that somebody says that BlackBerry may be coming out with an Android phone later this year.
Yeah.
Which BlackBerry, they're not very known for coming out on time with any device in the last 5 years. So this is going to be very interesting to see if they actually make this move.
Yeah, I'm very interested to see what they do with this. It might be the best thing for them, to be honest. Put the BlackBerry services on there and the email client and the BBM and
At
just run on Android.
What do they have left to lose?
Yeah. Nobody's using their QNX system, so.
Right.
Yeah, might as well do it.
The only thing that they still have left going for them is their patents and their BES system. I guess that's going to be their big selling, is what they want to invest in is their device management system, which is now called BES 12, which gives companies the ability to manage not just BlackBerry phones, but also Android, iOS, and Windows devices.
Interesting.
So I guess that's really the move that they're trying to make, is that they're going to be platform agnostic and support all devices.
I think that's a great deal for them, and that may be enough to keep them going. They still have a name in the enterprise world.
Barely.
I'm telling you, barely.
I think they've lost a lot of ground.
Yeah,
they've still been extremely slow to move on changing their business.
I know a lot of people that are grabbing
even today.
onto their
They're
phones.
still doing a lot of stuff in third world countries, and I know that's a big market these days. But for a company that was so huge, and now they're virtually non-existent in North America. I mean, you're talking lower market than even Windows Phone.
Yeah, it's disappointing to see.
And that's saying something, because Windows Phone does not have the largest market share either.
Yeah. One more story here, John, and then we're going to wrap it up. Apple's iPhone 6, rumor coming in that it could improve their selfie camera, their front-facing camera, which is their FaceTime camera, to a 1080p high-quality camera. I think it's very, very mandatory now for your phone to have a really good front-facing camera because most people are doing selfies.
Absolutely.
So they are working on this, and I think this is a great idea, and I think that you're going to see this. This is less of a rumor and more of a fact.
The front-facing camera that they have on phones these days are generally crap.
Yeah, the one I have on mine is really good, the selfie camera.
I have an iPhone 5, and I don't like taking pictures with the front-facing camera because they just turn out like crap.
Yeah.
You can see just how distorted, blurry, and just low quality they are.
Yeah.
But this will be great for all those girls that like taking selfies.
How about me? I'm not a girl, and I love taking selfies.
Yeah, but you're a little.
Well, thank you for that, John. All right, guys, that's it for this week. A little quick show. We're gonna be doing every couple of weeks. If it's slow, it's slow. We're gonna just hang out with you and talk whatever's available to us. As the summer months, it starts getting a little weird with the news. Go to our website, gfknetwork.com. You can catch us archived there. We're everywhere podcasts are available. Subscribe to us, guys. Subscribe. Also, thanks to our sponsor, for supporting what we do. Because, if it wasn't for Braintree, we would all have a difficult time putting in code and taking in mobile payment. I'll tell you that. Also, use our Amazon link, gfq.co/Amazon. That's gfq.co/Amazon. Whenever you purchase something, bookmark it, and we get a tiny little credit from every sale. You can follow me on Twitter @AngerZarin. You can follow John @Suncast. And that's it for this week, guys. Take care and brush your hair. We'll see you all next week. Bye-bye.